we should, because it's one side.
Public comment.
Yes, sir.
It'll be grueling.
Thank you for the inconvenience today of getting us set up. We are live and streaming now. I'd like to call the Osage Minerals Council regular meeting Friday, December the 6th to order. With that, I'd like to ask my brother, Tolly Ripcorn, to say a prayer for us. I'd like to mention not only tomorrow is important to us down south, taking care of our families, beloved ones, and our drowned. And I want to wish that to all of our other committees. Thank you.
Bueno, aquí estou má wataka de awata cobra. Ai tatsi wakanda ijike. De go and say aha dele. Wajaji anika share de maja de se de oma share de da ke de cobra that say ale. Walaki stone pa de mache machita ik share de mache
11:12 to have this done. I appreciate you all with our council. That being said, again, that was $4,005 per head right payment. The request I have is also add something in old business items, number D. Councilwoman, would you like to interject it at this time?
Yes, if we could add an old business, resolution to support the annuitants for change, verbiage that they are supporting for the constitutional change they're recommending, and that'll be printed out and distributed to all of the council members. And I'll talk more about it when we get to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Councilwoman.
I have something in, would like to be considered. I know that we talked about continuing supporting some of us going to the National Congress of American Indians.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to say that it isn't till February, but sometimes if we don't book hotel rooms early, then we're at high-priced other areas and we don't get the conference cost. And the other is, when last time I went to Albuquerque, and I know the members of Congress, they were in a hotel next to where, like 2 hotels over, but we were in a very suspect area of not being safe. In fact, I immediately called chairman and explained to him, and it was then a few weeks later there was a head found in the parking lot where the hotel I was staying at, but they did catch the people that did this. So I'm just saying that if we can allow that we talk about travel for NCI winter session.
Yes, ma'am. I would get the registration element out and the profile of it, and then we voted through. I do like the idea of going early. I do want to comment on one thing. Happens to the top leadership. Chief and I ran into the same thing when we had a nice hotel, except the travel group had not paid for it. With that being said, I want you to be aware of that, for especially my council that's going to be traveling. We have got to get you a card to travel with for emergency cases. And, we used to have it. I think we should request. At any case, let's get ahead of the curve. I'm going.
I just want to, just that we can
I have
get
to interject that we're setting up a date. They would like me at the IC Week meeting in Arizona, and I believe it's going to be the first week of February. They haven't set it yet, but I'm going. I asked Lacey. We already have a resolution, but the second I know, I am going to go to book the rooms, because last time I got stuck an hour away.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Council, is there anything else you'd like to add? Yes, Councilman Rebar.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Under new business, the move the well law, Susan Foreman, Councilwoman Foreman, would like for us to consider tabling this discussion until maybe our next meeting, so that she can be present and participate in the discussion and any vote that might result.
Which item was this?
It's under the B.
Under 4B, II, move well off.
Yes, sir.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll second his motion.
Second. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Rebar, seconded by Councilwoman Harlan. Any more discussion? Council?
Call for the question.
Yes, sir. Call for the question, Derek.
Councilwoman Gray,
No.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yeah.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Second Chair Yates.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
one item, I think we should maybe make a public notice, on this, PIS meeting.
Yes, sir. Please do.
I want to inform our shareholders and Osage County surface owners, landowners, that on December 12th, there'll be a meeting to discuss the countywide EIS. I guess it's proposed EIS at this moment.
That's correct.
And it'll be at the Osage Cultural Center, 220 Main Street, Pawhuska, Oklahoma, from 6 to 8. It's, I'll read just what it says. Sign up at the BIA Osage Agency or at the meeting for a 2-minute time slot if you wish to provide verbal input. The BIA encourages groups or organizations wishing to provide verbal input to elect a single representative to speak on their behalf or organization. You can also submit written comments at the meeting, email them to Osage County Oil and Gas at BIA.gov, or mail them to the Osage County Oil and Gas EIS and care of the BIA Osage Agency. Attention Superintendent, Post Office Box 1539, Pawhuska, Oklahoma 74056. Just thought I would need to get that out there. We need to have council there to listen and be aware of what's being said, because I've been through these before, and you'll have all the surface owners, ranchers, Cattlemen's Association.
Security.
Usually they're somewhere around. But there's a lot of, and then you'll have your oil producers, and then you'll have some council members get out there who want to speak. So anyway, I just, this is a process. Quoted, it's another process, but we need to be there and be aware of what's being said and what's being said out there.
Should we submit, should we be submitting something collectively? As, are we doing
You're
that?
stealing my thunder here. Hang on.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
What date was that?
December
The
12th.
12th, sir.
Which is my birthday.
You don't?
I believe the council is preparing a written
That's correct.
comments to our legal counsel.
That's correct. We have already had, and I'm trying to make sure that our comment period from the council, I want everyone to know that our council is working in many different directions, not only the constitutional effort, but in this case, the DEIS, the American burying beetle, the responses we're gonna have. And I do not want our headrod owner to worry about something. We're getting ready to go against NL in under a week. And I'm very proud of you all. And there's nothing like meeting us on the battlefield, I promise you. Thank you. With that being said, Council, do you have anything to add?
To follow up on the DEIS, we've had a long litigations against them rolling this out. I personally feel like it's an affront to our sovereignty as Osages. It impacts highly our ability to utilize our own assets and make that call. And I like the process we've done before. Questioning how we're doing it now, I don't think federalizing all our decisions, giving it to the hands of feds, is the best solution for our Osage people, including people who are out there producing. There's a lot of Osages out there that own land, run cattle, and operate their own leases. I say a lot, I've run into them. Should clarify that, but anyway, I'm hoping we can open that discussion back up. But it seems when we don't have pressure on the feds, they roll out with their own plan. And so I appreciate your Chairman, your dedication to keep that effort going in our previous council. And we need to somehow let it be known that we're not happy. I'm not sure if we got the right team mix this fourth round to do it. So anyway, I want to just, historically, this is something we've fought against previously. And I think a lot of pressure helps. And that's just the way of being a Native American on trust land, when everybody in the world wants your asset. And you've got to utilize it yourself. So anyway, thank you. Yeah, I got Shane.
We know, it's okay. The other effort is that I'd like our head right owners to know that we were told at the Bernhard meeting with the secretary is that they're getting to roll out the inherent federal function, and it should be on approximately December the 18th. And that will include and be all encompassing, not only for a Title 17, contract, compact, 638, whoever you may be, or the availability of a direct service tribe like ourselves. The Constitution covers a lot of things for the Osage Nation, and I agree with brothers that we've already had this battle once. We're going to have this inherent federal function given to us, and whatever we had requested from Bernhard, the nation is looking at certain elements that they have, and then the ones that we have, we want to fall under CFR codes. And with that being said, thank you, sir, for your comments. They are so spot on. With that, I need to make one more motion to table executive item 5A. The chief has requested that he be brought in on the regular council meeting coming up. So moved. So I have a motion on the floor. I have a second.
No, clarification, he wants to talk to us not in executive today, or you're asking to move it to the next meeting?
Move it to the next meeting.
Oh, okay, I'll second that.
Is that correct, dear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second him.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Redick, second by Councilwoman Harden. Without any discussion, we'd like to move the executive. We were going to discuss some of the CFR codes, but I think it works better. Just call for the question there. And we'll move it to next.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn.
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle.
Yes.
Councilman Rebar.
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Second Chair Yates.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. With that being said, we can go on down to our new business. I'd like to talk about the Sherwood construction. Mr. Kinnaman, are you present? I had discussed this. This is a project going on over next to us in the Sand Springs area. They have a project with ODOT. They're going to need to apply for the Sandy Silver permit. And with that, do I need a resolution, Lacey, to allow that to happen?
They need a resolution for it, yeah.
To do application for the 214. There is another question that since they are doing the full project, and this is why they're going to need the permit, at the project on our side, they're going to do the dirt work, and the Turnpike Authority is going to allow them to use some of the dirt from our side to complete the endeavor that connects it on Tulsa County. And my response to that was pass. And with that being said, we'll get to the process. I told Chris is that I'm going to bring it to the council, and he'll go with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Mrs. Candidate to fulfill the.
What is the price of the borough? Just asking.
We had put a standard usage of 10%.
Okay.
And that's across the board. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the first question he asked. He wanted to see if he's going to get the same price they got for Barnesville. And I told him we live in a different world than we
10%
did.
at the nearest point of sale.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
10% from the nearest point of sale that can be weighed and scaled. And that was another response, but the Bureau of Indian Affairs will bring that back to us with their negotiated price.
So no action today, you just,
No, I think I have to have a resolution for them to do the applicant. I'd like to go ahead and inform of a motion, allow Sherwood Construction to respond and take care of the 214 Sandy Soul permit and necessary for one of their projects in Tulsa.
Moved.
I have a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the question, please.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Councilwoman Gray, I am so sorry.
Councilman Redcorn,
Abstain?
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar.
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Second Chair Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much for that. I'd like to go into the Budget Committee recommendations. Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, thank you. If you could pull up the budget modification. We had a meeting
Did yours come out?
on December 6th. Sorry. On December 3rd. And we had asked the treasurer, Jim Littleton, to come over, and he reported to us that there was a request from Congress. I think you need to make it a little bigger. Okay, so we have a line item that we've used for years under our budget, which is our C-395 funds, from Congress to change the name of account. We used to have other, and that has now been agreed upon to call council expenses. And that would be the line item of 5925. So we are going to, then we had, when we give one of our staff an increase about a month and a half ago, we needed to make a modification for that in salary and I guess it'd be,
Salary, merit pay. And,
yeah. And so we took 5,000 out of that to cover and move it to wages. So that's the only modification that we need.
And it was a request
Well,
on this.
Yes.
yes, and so I need that in a, and then also, just so you know, this has now been renamed. If you look at the top, it's now Minerals FY19, so. I need a form of a motion to, take 5,000 out of that to move it to, wages.
So moved.
So moved. I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Gray, seconded by Councilwoman Harlan. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Yes, Councilman.
I'm a little confused, I'm sorry. What are you proposing?
Okay, so if you go down to where it says council expenses in line item 5925, there's a deduct of 5,000.
Yeah, so-
When we give a raise, an increase, about a month and a half ago, in our.
You're pulling it out of another line.
Oh, it's going to wages.
So you're taking it out of one item, sticking it in. for
Right.
wages. That's
Yes,
it.
Yeah, that's it, that's all we're doing.
As requested by the treasurer. Call for the question.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Second Chair Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes,
Councilwoman Harlan. Whoops.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Just keep on going. Just keep, as long as it passes. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We already took care of the well logs. Is there any other recommendations that you need to discuss, council?
I had a question, the previous agenda, I had a requested that we release the budget plus expenses to the OSA who's requested it. I don't see it.
Item D, sir.
Is it on there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, so on recommendation from the treasurer, if you could open that one up, please, and make it bigger. From our last meeting, I discussed in the meeting with council member Revard that I would try to help make something streamlined for the with the shambles or any project that we have. And so in discussion with the treasurer, and Director Halleck on his expertise on doing Gantt charts and how they follow the procedures under construction. So, I mean, if some of these line items need to be, changed or maybe added some, but this is a form that the nation has used when they're doing construction, but it's an easier way that we can track the invoicing and where it is in the system. And I think that we could probably expand on this, but I think, I'm just gonna take this and move it over to your committee if you all want it. That way we have something on the beginning of a spreadsheet that you'll be able to track, and then the approvals will be there. So anyway, that's what, in working with the treasurer and to get this, in fact, they already had this basically in the queue, so it may be something that we would look to.
As recommended by committee.
By committee,
Fine.
yeah, so if we can do either one or two things, either we can approve this document or we can just move it to your committee and you all can decide, hey, we need to add this to it, and then I'm sure our staff could probably add some columns as such. But as promised, it's delivered to council.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions? With that, I'd like to move on down to the,
Oh, I'm just sorry, are we
Yes.
moving it, are we gonna approve it, or are we just moving it to committee?
I'll make a motion that we move it to committee and let the committee determine what's most appropriate on there.
thank you.
Second.
I'm good.
Second, I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Marlin, seconded by Councilman Redcorn. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for the question.
What committee are we moving to?
To the well plugging?
You're hearing it. Thank God, I'm like Jamie in that commercial. Y'all hearing the sounds? I never worry until I answer.
I shoot too many guns, I can't hear, but.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Secretary Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle.
Yes.
Motion passes.
In just a second, I'll be right with you. And actually, Councilman Redcorn seconded that one. Yes, ma'am. With that, I'd like to go into the item C1, the oil field.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, okay. Thank you, Chair. In the same vein, we're talking about the movement of files and such. I want to make a motion that we table this discussion.
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Second.
You have a second over here? I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Redcorn, seconded by Councilman Revard to table item CI.
Discussion?
Please.
Just for Councilman Redcorn, I know it just says it's a resolution to determine lease options, but do you think when you set this for the next meeting that maybe you could come give us kind of an idea of what's out there? What kind of prices we're talking about?
I think, I'm talking about oil field equipment storage.
That's
Yes,
what you're
sir.
saying?
And I'm asking, can you bring us some idea of what a
Inventory.
lease might cost, a ballpark figure?
Well, this resolution, okay, this is the wrong resolution. This is for Tim Dowd, is it not?
No, it
Look
says
up there.
determining lease options for indoor and outdoor. And I'm just asking before this comes back before us, can you give us a ballpark figure?
Well, I have to say, I just read Tim Dowd's resolution about an hour ago, and it reads just like that, so I'm thinking this might not be the correct resolution.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
But I can answer the question.
Yes.
Okay. We've had a lot of discussion on Mr. Dowd within our orphan well. And we had some members wanting to go ahead and make him, get him to work and do this quickly. However, we discussed in our last meeting, which was Monday, to C, we still have some promising locations out there, but the analysis is not complete.
Can I interrupt? You're going in a direction I'm not interested in right now.
Okay.
My question is, when you come back to the council asking for a supportive resolution to go find a spot to put a boneyard,
Storage,
Can you-
lay down. yard.
can you please give us a ballpark figure of what you're thinking of spending?
Oh, yeah, that's,
I mean, I don't wanna say that I'm not totally interested in what you said about Mr. Down, but that wasn't my question.
well, I mean, the
Move out for the
resolution,
mayor.
I'm
Can I
confused.
say something?
If I could if I may finish, because I'm confused, the resolution is not correct.
Okay,
So I'm gonna pass that off, that's the Tim Dow discussion.
okay.
I don't know how that got in there, but maybe it's my fault, and I apologize if it is. The oil field equipment storage is another issue that we're finding a lot of equipment out there. I say a lot, we're finding equipment out there. And we're thinking we need a place to store it. My comments, and this is one out of 4 or 5 on the Orphan Well Committee, is that we gotta really minimize costs because the margins are so tight on Orphan Well. So, but Paul, Mr. Revard might not agree, so we gotta bounce that among us, and then we're gonna come to the council with a full-blown plan of what the equipment's gonna cost, how much we wanna rent, those kind of costs, and we can't do that until the field tests are done. Is that
Excuse me.
helpful?
Yes,
Okay.
it does what
I'm
it said.
sorry, Paul.
Well, you're still, I don't think, answering Councilwoman Harlan's
He
question.
did, I got it.
Because we have this equipment, some that needs to be stored indoors, and some, like tanks and pumping units, could be stored outdoors.
Right.
We're considering, and the tribe is considering letting us use some of the area over at the industrial park, Common, for this purpose. We were trying to inquire from them what their lease rates were. And they would not answer us. They would not give us an estimate of any lease without a resolution from the council to make the request from them for an estimate.
And I'm gonna say, this is an internal Orphan Well Committee discussion. That these guys, I mean, some want to go ahead and hit them up with the costs. I'm saying, we can't pay a lot of money without doing an economic assessment, and we can only do that when the margins are, or the OI, the returns are predicted, and we're not there yet. So that's kind of where we are with that.
I'll get to you later, sir.
I mean, it's a very interesting process, and Paul's right for his plan, but it doesn't quickly line up with what I think, but that's fair. We're gonna vote on it, and
We were talking about lease space, not about economics of the well.
I am, maybe you're not, but I am. You can't do any of this if the return's not there.
Just to get an estimate of what it's gonna cost if we wanted to use one of those buildings. And they won't tell us without a resolution. So, that's all that is.
Yes, sir. May I move on?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We are gonna have another working on committee before the next regular meeting.
On the 18th?
And we can discuss it, and, just like Charlie's right, there's a lot of things inside that grant that we're still in that need to be completed, you know?
Yes, sir.
But we can still talk about a cost, and maybe you can invite Dante to the meeting. Maybe he can give us some kind of estimate. If that'll answer your question.
Yes.
Can I,
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Thank you.
second chair will wrap it up.
I would, when we had our committee meeting the other day, with Councilmember, Red Eagle and Chair Waller and I believe, Second Chair Yates was there as well. Mr. Halleck reported to us, because there's different needs that we're talking about. And they all become financial needs.
Correct.
And how this will impact our overall budget. We've got everything from, if we just not to we can talk about this at our next meeting, but just to give you a snapshot of it, he said we could probably move like our well logs out of that building, put them over in our storage for $1,000. Or we can go to Hominy and store them all the way up to $72,000. So that's why it is a wide margin, and I would like that, you know, in working with the committees, that is a huge cost for us to do. So I think we're still looking at avenues, and maybe we don't work with the nation on that. Maybe we could lease something at a cheaper rate, unfortunately. But we need to look at like the feasibility of it, and that's all I have to.
And if I may, I totally agree with what you're saying, Ms. Gray. I'm gonna pitch that when we start looking at costs, the orphan well cannot pay for these big costs to source something because the margins are very, very tight. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right, I agree.
So for us to say we want a cost from the nation, I think we need to hold off, but like I said, you're seeing it being played out right here. We're having this discussion in our, and it's not a pretty discussion. We've got varying ideas here, and that's good. I think it's good because we're hammering through the process. We've got strong feelings here and there, and that's fine. But right now, Mr. Revard just seconded my motion to table it. So with Susan here, I think it'd even be more grand. We'll have her input too, which she has some really good input on this. And that's the reason I'd like to, with the other discussion on moving well logs, this was gonna go right along with it.
Yes, sir.
And if I may, and I've always been saying, and I'm sorry, Chair, the end result is whatever your vision is for the whole, we want a part of it for orphan well. Not all of it for orphan well, part of it, and then you might have a vision over here, and please let us hear what you think, you know, how it'll all fit in together.
We're just, I mean, as far as if I can respond to him, just to wrap this up. It always comes down to what it's gonna cost. I mean, we wanna look at to get what we need, but at a minimal cost. And, you know what, it's good to have this discussion that we have an issue with. It's good to have this problem in a way. That it shows that our orphan well is happening, our well plugging is happening, and we are looking at, we're gonna end up with some equipment that we would have never had before. So it's a healthy discussion. That's all I have to say, Chair, thank you.
I like the idea that how hard they have been working. See, everyone notices about what we don't get right. But I want to tell you in the last year and 2 months, what you did get right. And I want to compliment you that. Not only that, because I want you to go home and enjoy Christmas. Man, I'm tired, and I appreciate that, but I appreciate you all. Wanted you to know that. With that, no, I want to let it finish up, and Councilman Marlin, second chair.
I will gladly yield to the second chair if he will end this conversation.
I'm going to take liberties with this discussion
Please
on the
do.
Orphan Well Committee. I would like a report on the shambles number 68. I understand it's been plugged.
As of yesterday?
You got a report on it? Can you
No.
give us some input on that?
No.
Do you know what the final cost was on that?
It's gonna be in excess of 120,000.
Are you sure of that?
220.
That's what I thought. That's a lot of money for plugging the well. Could I
Sure is.
get an explanation on why it costs so much to plug this well?
The first hurdle was the $65,000 of dirt work that was required to reroute a creek and to build a road and to prepare the location to even be able to get a rig in. That's extremely unusual. I would have anticipated a couple of $1,000 maybe, a little gravel on the road. Maybe have to knock down some vegetation over the 100 years that the well's been there. The well was a real, it was an emergency well. It had seepage.
I agree.
So it needed to be plugged. It was We had to pull pipe, we had to run in pipe, surface to protect the surface water, cement it. Then we had to go in and drill out the cement. Then we had to drill, very difficult plug. There was 2 plugs in the well that were pine logs, which was not too unusual back in those days. But they're extremely difficult to drill. We had to have a special bit to drill the pine log.
You'll have to take this for state.
Change basically.
Yeah, we had to change out bits. It was just horribly expensive. One of the biggest expenses was a reverse circulator, which I think, we used torque tools out of Hominy. I think there was one of the biggest line items. Fortunately, we got to the point of plugging that we actually altered our plugging plans with the approval of the BIA. Because inside that leftover 7-inch that wasn't shot, they shot off the 7-inch and recovered it when they plugged their well originally. Inside that remaining 7-inch was a packer and 2-inch tubing shot off inside the 7-inch. So the next thing that we were going to have to do is go in there and try to retrieve that packer and tubing out of the inside of the 7-inch so we could go deeper and set a plug at the bottom of that 7-inch.
So did you achieve TD?
So, no, we called Steve Kohler and told him that we felt that it was just gonna be so expensive to do this. He authorized us to set a cement plug right there on top of that 7-inch and just cement all the way out of the hole and be done with it. We did that and welded a cap on it, yes, sir.
So you did leave some casing in the hole?
There is some 7-inch casing in the hole with cement plug on top of it, with the packer set inside of it.
Okay. Okay, I had not seen a well other than the ball field where we had to drill a well close to the existing well.
Oh, you could drill a well for this, yes.
I agree.
And one thing I will note, when we were circulating mud through the Bartlesville sand, it was flowing oil out of the Bartlesville. So that lease probably has some potential. We need to make a note about it and maybe offer it to a lease sale one day.
You did have that well, that oil that you recovered tested, did you not?
Yes, we did, and that oil was no good.
Ended up not being any good, and you had to haul it
Tested
off.
19-degree gravity.
Right.
It was not sellable oil.
But this isn't gonna be the norm for the rest.
No, I would anticipate most of our wells that we have to plug are probably gonna be $10,000 or less.
Right.
This was just an extreme circumstance.
I still shake my head at that road now. I mean, 65,000 to a plugged well that you'll never, hopefully ever go back to.
Yeah, and then we've got the surface owner want damages. And here we are, cleaning up the place, but,
Yeah, it sounds like it.
and maybe this is not the venue for this discussion.
We go to Tolly first.
Just a clarification, this is a well plugging committee. I believe you're on it, second chair, and so am I. Which I think you mentioned orphan well, which you're not on, which is a totally different program. I just want
Right.
to clarify that well plugging to the whole world out there, if everyone's listening, the well plugging committee is tasked to plug wells. Now, since I've been associated with it, there's been 2 very difficult wells that needed to be plugged, and we keep on top of that. So I commend the team and how it's being approached. And it's not an easy task, as you know, Mr. Yates, and you're right on top of it, and we're trying to answer your questions, but I'm talking to Mr. Lynn daily, how's it going, and,
I don't get the daily reports, I just get the daily bills coming in, and then when I seen the total, I was like, what happened? And who decided this? So,
Please do.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, finish it up.
So, again, I thought Second Chair was gonna end the conversation on the motion. But, I appreciate the expense. I come from an oil field family, so I appreciate the expense plugging that well. However, everybody on this council knows that there were multiple emails going back and forth, and everybody was coming with different opinions and such. And I think might be a best idea is if the well plugging committee could share with us the procedures, and maybe that will help everybody better understand why you're making the decisions you're making. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I call for the question on the original motion to table.
Thank you. Call for the question. Don't laugh. Just come on.
Chairman Waller,
I don't get this power very often. Yes.
Secretary Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Oh my God, yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move in, is there any other effort on that other than table? I do want you to talk about the provide budget and expense report to OSA.
If I may, Chair, last meeting, I attended the OSA meeting,
Good.
and they being the OSA, had a lot of questions. They wanted an expense report. So I told, the chair was Lou Phillips, that I would bring it to the full council. I would propose that we submit some type of expense report to the OSA chair on how much we're spending and what our expenses are.
Is there anything you need to add to that? I do know that, we were taken to court over this. There's some, items that you can't turn over. One of them I know right off the bat is our attorneys. It's a privilege, confidentiality, but I know that the budget was, sent out before. And then this request, they also had a request to the nation. Nation didn't send it. So with that, I'd like to, talk to my counsel about this and how he feels it would be best handled. They got last year's budget. And with that, any other discussion? Councilman Rivard.
Thank you, Chairman. I attended that same meeting with the shareholders in another matter that they brought up. I may not follow this particular agenda item, but they were concerned about receiving another newsletter. Would like to know when they might expect one. So if we could let them know listening in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I, okay. As of yesterday, we went out and we did an RFP, and we hired a graphics person who is going to be putting that together, and also a list of about 10 other things that they'll be doing for the Minerals Council. And one of them is putting together the newsletter, a template that way we'll be able to use it from on. I'm sorry, but you know the process of working with procurement. I did talk to the treasurer, and he assured me that we now have a new person assigned to us, and that our processes will be expedited a lot easier now. As far as when we just got the contract, and as soon as chairman signs that, we will be able to get that newsletter out, plus our strategic plan in a nice booklet, and be sent out to everybody.
It's already signed, ready to go.
Yeah, oh, you signed, okay, let me finish, but the other question is back to releasing this information. I believe instead of sending it to one membership group, that we send it to all shareholders. That's who, if they want to, and in talking with our legal counsel, that we will, let's see what we'll be able to legally put out, because, you know, I agree, we shouldn't be putting out proprietary information. But if it's an overall budget, I think that, you know, whatever it is that they're looking for or needing, but it's not to one group, it needs to be to all shareholders, and maybe we should include that into our strategic plan and / newsletter that will go out.
It's in there.
Yeah,
Are you done?
I'm done.
Councilwoman, then I'll go back to
I
Councilman.
make a motion to table this. There was no motion made to begin with. I make a motion that we table this and get, an opinion from Mr. Pipestem, and also we get some official word from the treasurer's office. I'd like to know if a FOIA request,
Was made.
was made on this. I also like Councilwoman Gray's, suggestion to not release it to one group, but rather release it to everyone, whatever we release. But that's not the motion before us. The motion before us is whether to release this to the Osage Shareholders Association. And my motion is to table this matter.
Second.
I need a second.
Second. I'll second it.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Harlan, seconded by Councilwoman Gray. Open for any more discussion, Council.
The direct words from Ms. Phillips of OSA was transparency. She said we all ran on transparency, and she's requesting that we stand by
Correction, I
it.
did not claim that.
But you deliver it.
I'm just telling you what she said to me.
I'm for it, I just say I did not,
Thank you.
that's not on mine.
I have a motion on the floor to table, to have our council give us the response necessary.
Another
The
question?
review that it has been asked for to the nation, which I know it has.
And it's been refused? Yeah.
Some of it was, what we just talked about.
Call for the question.
Call for the question.
Secretary Yates,
Table.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
No,
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you very much.
got another question?
Yes, and I will say that, our attorney had to step out of the room to take care of one of our business calls, and, I've already allowed that, so if we want to take a short break, or I'd like to go ahead and, get to, Mr. Gray.
Could I have,
Council,
I'm looking at the budget. We have money in there for the newsletter. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and Lacey could launch the micro request to get the newsletter rolling. Unless we need a budget mod from you, I think that should be the track, not.
It's,
If
Let him
the
finish.
if the budget needs modification, you need, I agree the budget committee needs to meet. But if the budget does not need modification, then their staff needs to launch the request through Tammy Leeper to get the newsletter going. That's my thought. Thank you, Chair.
yes, thank you very much. With that, we're gonna have to move on, and, we'll get the clarification from our attorney that's going to actually set the precedent for that. This council has already went through this once. And it was stated by our attorney generals that we do not turn that over. But we are allowed, and we have helped with this effort last year and turned this budgets over, which is actually needs to be requested to the nation, because they're the ones going to, I believe my congresswoman's here today, they approve our budgets. And that's when we come in. Do you have any review of them? Could you, help us on that one?
I've never seen your C-395 budget of your council spending, nor have I ever requested to do so, nor am I familiar with anybody on Congress that has ever asked for that request. The budget request that I've reviewed is when we started appropriating
Dollars.
dollars to cover your indirect costs
Thank
and your
you.
space costs.
Thank you.
I review that because those are tribal dollars that are expended out of our general fund of the treasury. So I'm
Executive does
pretty
deliver
unfamiliar
that.
with some of the
Yes,
things that have
thank
been
you,
said
Jerry.
here at the table.
Thank you. That is delivered to the Congress in the book from executive. We have to have a projected budget on it, just like any other department. With that being said, we'll go on to our next item. I'd like to go in and have Mr. Gray come and speak to us. Please, Red Dawn has the information. I believe our secretary has handed it over to you, and it will be on this mapping.
Very good, thank you very much. I think what I'd like to start by saying, I'm amazed at the collegial goodwill that this council conducts business in. And what a lesson for many other organizations, so it's been fun to watch. I wanted to follow up. I was here a couple of weeks ago at the last council seeking an extension or some sort of accommodation for Ray's leasehold position in Osage County. And the instruction was to sort of put together a plan and come back, and so that's why I'm here. I want to start off by just saying that as Radon did its initial investigation to begin prospecting and exploring for oil and gas in Osage County, we met with several consultants that work with the agency. I met with the full team of the agency, and although I had been told by other industry participants that working in Osage County was too difficult, we decided to go ahead and launch with the idea that we could establish a significant enough footprint and that it would allow us to, move operations here and really get a start here in Osage County. In Osage County, I'm not incredibly familiar with all of the operators, but from my observation is that there is this handful of wonderful operators that have been here a long time that have a footprint here, and so their needs are met with 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 6 tract kind of acquisitions, and they're sort of bolting on to production that they already have. We're trying to establish a footprint here, and I think that, and I can't read your mind, but it seems to me that what we're trying to do is good for the Mineral Council, and companies like Devon and Chesapeake and others who could really make a difference here, the same barriers that Radon is facing here are the same barriers that would keep them on the sidelines. So in some ways, I think that Radon is sort of a poster child of, is it possible to be a new player in Osage County? I feel absolutely accommodated by the council, and I know that in many ways our interests are aligned in that we are both interested in trying to establish additional production. And so there's many things that we have in alignment. So what I have done is I've provided this map. I didn't want to display it just because, it is somewhat proprietary or confidential. So I thought by you all viewing it at your desk, it would maintain that just a little bit. But what you'll see.
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay, thank you. What you'll see is just a general depiction of what a going forward plan might be for Radon. So you'll see in the southeast of section 6, that is where our permit that we've applied for is pending. The status of that is we're still awaiting for permit approval. I had a conversation as early as Wednesday of this week with the idea that, perhaps the environmental assessment, which is the last sort of hurdle before a 30-day letter goes out, that it should be any time now, but I've been receiving that kind of encouragement for a couple of months. So I'm guardedly optimistic that here in the next few days, a week or so, that final regulatory approval will be met. So our idea is to go out, we'll go out and we'll drill this initial test well to test our geologic concept. It's likely that our geologic concept, it could be proven with one well, likely disproven by more than one. It would probably take 2 or 3 wells before we're satisfied that our geologic ID is not working. And so to try to fully develop this 2,880 acre lease block, I built sort of this conceptual idea of how going forward drilling permits would look, what those footprints would be. And so the idea is after we drill this initial well, to immediately go forward and apply for drilling permits, at least for one additional 10-acre block, or 10-well block. So, you all know this, I'm sure better than I, but the initial step, or one of the first steps that the industry takes to obtain a drilling permit is an archaeological survey. And that archaeological survey for this permit cost us $14,000. And so that's for a quarter section. So you can see a 10-well permit could be as many as 6 quarter sections. So just the archaeological expense starts adding up. And so, and then there's the biological surveys and all the other things that follow on. So we're interested in going forward and excited about going forward. But what you can see is that just the clock ticking. Because of the furlough at the beginning of the year, our leases were approved on March 15th. At the approval of those leases, we immediately contracted for the archaeological survey. And we have been diligently pursuing the permit since then. And as you can tell, it's December and we're still waiting on that permit. So just to get to these, I guess what we could do, if we get no relief, then the option we're going to have is that based on the outcome of this initial well, we could go and we could apply for 3 consecutive, 3 10-well drilling permits all simultaneously. But it would be at a tremendous expense, and so it would require an exceptional result from that first well for us to do that. And it would be very difficult, if you can imagine, drilling 30 wells within a 5 or 6 month time frame. It's possible, but these are just barriers for orderly, cost-effective, risk mitigated exploitation of an asset. And so we really just need more time. And so as I thought about that, since we met last, when I was in here last time, I was seeking an accommodation that was granted at the last meeting for a sort of no-cost, 1-year additional lease or additional extension. It was pointed out that our footprint here is significantly greater than a 160-acre tract. And so as I've thought about it, what I really need, I think, is not a 1-year extension. I think for us to orderly develop this area, if we're fortunate enough to be successful, is we need an additional 2 years. And so that would allow us to not immediately go for 3 10-well permits. It would allow us to do them in some sort of orderly succession. And although we would need to keep a rig moving through the whole time period to effectively, exploit this block, yet there wouldn't be this high risk, possibly wasted, effort to permit things that, as our drilling progressed, may or may not really need to be permitted. So my proposal, and I'm open for, discussion or maybe finding a different way, but my proposal would be that we acquired this 2-year block for a cost of $4,700 per tract. And so my proposal would go something like this. The 6 months before the expiration date of these leases, Reagan would have the ability to apply for or receive an extension or a new lease for whatever the remaining acreage is that we would like to extend. So if we drilled a couple of wells and held a couple of quarter sections, or maybe 3, then we would apply for, the balance, whatever that might be. And at that 6 months prior to the expiration date of these leases, we would put up 25% of the cost of those tracts. And then And we'd continue to drill and apply for permits, and maybe we'd drill 2 or 3 more before the expiration date of the leases. But then at that point, if we haven't drilled a bunch of dry holes and we're ready to, ride off in the sunset, then we would exercise the option to go ahead and purchase by paying the 75% balance for all of those tracks. So essentially, it would replicate our initial investment in this block.
Yes, sir. Anything you'd like to add before we start questions?
Please,
Council?
other than that.
I think I would feel better if we tabled this and gave Mr. Gray, as I recall, you have about a few more months, correct? Is it a year?
Yeah, we have a year.
Yeah, I would feel better, and I'll put this in the form of a motion, that we table this and have Mr. Gray put his offer in writing to us, what he's asking for.
Or submit to maybe our oil and gas expert, Tim Dowd. He usually reviews contracts.
Well, we can submit that, if this, Mr. Gray will submit that to the council in writing, to the chair, and then
Lacy?
where it could go, that's my motion.
Yes, ma'am. Second, who seconded that?
Ali.
Councilman Ray.
Discussion.
Excuse me, I have a motion on the floor. Councilwoman Harlan, seconded by Councilman Raycor. We're going to open up for discussion. Council.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Gray, I'm trying to, I know that we were gonna ask you to put this in writing, but just so I can leave here trying to get an understanding of what you're asking for. You're saying that 6 months prior to the lease terminating for lack of production, you'd want the ability to put down 25% of the bonus of the original $4,700 an acre for a 2-year additional lease?
Yes.
So are you expecting us to tie up all this 2,000 some odd acres for what period of time? I mean, a lot of this is going to expire, what, in March?
Yes. So what I'm asking is that Radin has assurance that as long as we're drilling and have success, we're going to have an additional 2 years to exploit this entire block.
Councilman. Please.
I wasn't for concessions. We were doing a lot of them. I was always willing to break them or wanting to. But this one's like less than of a concession. We're gonna tie up land with partial payments, which I'm a little bit leery of even more, but, anyway, that's my comment.
Councilwoman.
Yes, I just want to make sure that, see, you said, you went the extended 2 years with, 25% of the cost of each track?
Yeah, just as the 25% would be paid 6 months prior to the expiration date of the lease. When the leases expire and we renew the leases for the additional 2 years, we then pay the balance, the full balance of the loans.
And just kind of recalling what we had asked him to do is to come back, show us the plan. And I think you showed us the plan, but I have to agree with my colleague to my left here, Councilwoman Harlan, that we are wanting to look at that, everything that you want to do in writing. You would want that too if you were doing that. So I think that's what we're asking, and we can just move this to the next agenda to give you, I'm sorry, I'm still talking, I'm sorry. So I believe that we did, we asked you to come back and show us what your path of success will be in working with us. And so I think that you have showed, and then you came up with that. And then it's up to us to, whatever you put on the table, look at, and then we can negotiate what those terms are, what we're looking at. I feel more comfortable with that.
I appreciate, Chairman, it's not one thing, but two, written proposal, and then as Mr. Second Chair said, set it on Mr. Dow for comment.
Yes, sir. I agree with that. Something else I'd just like to interject. Right after he had bought these leases, the council went in and started giving 3-year primary terms. That's true. So, with that being said, we'll take care of it.
May I just make a couple of
No.
comments? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Council, do you have any second?
Right, I was just going over the
Let them
fine-tuning.
finish and then I'll
I
wrap
was
it
just
up.
fine-tuning your proposal, and I know you guys didn't like concessions, but we had $10,000 per head right, and we got $25 million off of bonuses at one point. So those were hard to turn down, and then people were drilling horizontals and making a lot of oil, so I know and I've helped break them since, because, you know, it did tie up a lot of property and so. But I am trying to fine tune this. You're wanting to come in, and this is, when is this expiration date on this?
It's March 15th,
March 15th, 2021?
2021.
2021, so we still got time. 6 months prior to the expiration date, you're wanting to come in and propose a 25% to continue to hold those for 2 years?
Now, so let me restate. So when I was here last time,
Right.
Mr. Rivard had talked about this concept of what the industry calls a top lease. And what a top lease is there's an existing lease that has some primary term left. An industry person, maybe even the owner of the original lease, maybe some third party, wants to acquire that lease at the expiration date of the primary term. And so they will give the landowner some down payment up front, and for the right to then
Well, let me
pay it
ask
off
you
at
this.
the end. And so I structured this with that.
That's very good, but
Let
let
me
second
ask you
chair
this.
say.
So if you put 25% down as earnest money, that's what I'm looking at.
That's right.
Then at the expiration date, you got the option to walk away from it or pick that lease up again for, the balance.
That's right.
Or we sell that lease for something else for ourselves.
Well, we're kind of agreeing to the minimum.
We ain't agreed nothing yet.
I can
Okay.
that.
Council,
Yeah, follow up on when I got in on Minerals 3, the whole county was pretty much closed up in concessions. And, you know, there was just nowhere else somebody else could come in and so therefore at that point, you know, why are we sitting here? The whole county was tied up. So with concessions, so I want to point out that you've got 160-acre lot and you're going to actively pursue that. I'm looking at it right now. That's the plan. That's the plan of the Osages. You come in here, you nominate a 160-acre location, and then you put something to work. Now, I would like, if you don't like that plan and you propose that and come either to negotiate or go to an auction, and tell us the story why you want to tie up so much land, and is it worth us to tie up so much land? Because we've had experiences where they just sat on it and tied up all this land and then just sat on it. So I'm not, well, that's my comment. I like the old place, which is auction it. If it's that damn good, auction it. You guys battle over it. If it's not, then let's talk. But tell the story why you need to tie up all this acreage. And I'm only seeing one well on here. So anyway,
I'd be happy to, is this the right time for me to answer that question, or?
you can just put it in your written proposal.
You go ahead and respond.
Well, any industry person that is going to take the risk of a wildcat test needs the ability to develop the idea if it's correct. If there's not the ability to do that, then the risk return isn't there for them. And that's why the industry isn't, in addition to the permits, even if there wasn't a permit process, if a company could only control a block for 2 years, and where we're at right now, 2 years really only allows if we do permits in succession, I don't know why anybody would buy more than 2 tracks anywhere, because you could own, or a 3-year lease, 3 tracks anywhere, because you're never going to get it permitted to drill. So therefore, any geologic idea that is larger than 3 wells, or that is riskier than a corner shot, the industry is going to stay away from Osage.
And have.
That's right. And so we're out here, it's an ambitious undertaking. We've got a footprint that will allow us to drill 20 or 30 wells. I would think that the Mineral Council would welcome that kind of commitment. You can see that in each one of these permit areas, it's tiny, but you'll see it. There's a little red triangle which indicates our initial drill site in each one of those blocks. So our idea is, and we thought we would be drilling based on consultation of consultants and in a meeting with the Osage agency, that we would be drilling our initial well this past August. And we would be then into this next phase. And we're still waiting to drill our initial test well. We would have done a 10-well drilling permit for our initial test well, but we picked this tract because it's a tract that is regularly harvested for hay, and therefore the beetle was not an issue. And so we laser focused so that we could quickly get in and test our idea. And so we're still waiting.
I need to go next, my councilwoman, then councilman.
Just 2 points of clarification from me. The first, and I'm sure Mr. Gregg has perhaps misspoke or I misheard. The last meeting, we did not grant a 1-year extension. We tabled it. Was the same type of motion. I made the motion, Councilman Redcorn seconded. So we tabled the motion. The second point of clarification is, I'm not asking to put this on the next agenda. That wasn't part of my motion. I was just asking to table it. I think we do need time for him to prepare a written document and have whomever this council decides they want to review, and then bring it back. Now, that being said, we're not gonna just sit on it. We know there's some urgency to it. And then the third thing I wanted to say, and no offense, Councilman Redcorn, but please, let's call for the question.
May I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
At the risk of this congenial group all turning on me.
Oh, that's a given.
So, there are a variety of ways for us to approach this issue that gets us where we need to be, which is certainty that if we are successful in our drilling efforts, we will have the right, since we are the ones that took the risk and deployed the risk capital, we would like the right to be able to fully develop this idea. And so there's a variety of ways we could skin that cat. And so the reason I didn't put it in writing is because I was hoping that perhaps there would be sufficient feedback from the council that would help me then reduce this to something that is amenable to the council. And so that's the reason that I didn't come in with a formal proposal. And I would still love that kind of input if that's appropriate. I don't know, maybe that's not an appropriate request.
Councilman Redcorn and then
Thank you,
Councilman
Chair.
Wright.
Again, I worked for an oil company many years. We need a complete proposal
Sure.
with everything, including the information you're describing. I know some of them want to hear it pitched in the room. I want to see all of it. Why you think this thing is a good idea. And it needs to be complete. I don't mean to be, I want to see a complete proposal.
And what would that include?
Everything you're proposing and all of the details and how long you want these set, everything. I'm only looking at this. You know, like I said, they're pretty much bound up and ready to go with all the proposal, and here's the benefit, here's how we're gonna benefit, here's what you want. That's what I'm used to seeing. But that's just me. Maybe somebody else, hey, you give them some flowery language, man, we're gonna sell it. But I heard one time, Chairman, a guy pitched their Indian tribe to sign a 99-year lease.
Right here.
And I was like, why in the hell would anybody want to sign a 99-year lease? But that's what, we gotta be prudent. You're gonna come in here and ask for money to do something, we gotta benefit. If you're not gonna do it, then you need to get off and we'll get somebody who can. So that's our job. But I'd like to see a lot more information. If you wanna talk afterwards, I can give you a lot more ideas.
Okay. That'd be great. I will just say,
I'd like,
we would have drilled the
what's
well.
so funny, Secretary?
Hang on. Let him finish.
You laugh. There's a joke book you're reading over there? These guys have no respect for everybody.
I'm going to stop all this. Number one, we understand. Number two, I've said on 4 of these. So let's just stop. I'd like to go to Councilman Reba
Thank you, Chairman.
to wrap up.
Mr. Gray, and to address an issue that I know Councilman Redcorn and Yates both have, is that, in fact, I think Councilman Yates reminded us that this is in a pretty prolific area of our county. And it might draw some higher bonus at some point, especially if you had some success. I know that you don't want to take an undertaking for this wildcat without having your protection age. That is industry normal business. You're not gonna go in and take all the risk just for somebody else to come in and buy it out from underneath. But you're asking for a set price per acre in advance. And I didn't have a problem with it, but one thing that you might consider, and for us to think that might be an option, to address the competition that Mr. Councilman Redcorn mentioned, to have a competition like at a lease sale, is that maybe you could propose or just consider asking for a right of first refusal. In other words, you can come in here and take the risk, and if somebody else is willing to pay at the termination of your lease a higher price, you could at least get to match that higher price and still be assured that you can have it if you want it. I mean, that's something that's commonly done, is to put in oil and gas lease. It's not uncommon to put in your lease terms that you're granting somebody the right of first refusal. Should somebody else come in to lease it, they get first right. If somebody was willing to pay 3 times the $4,700, at least Mr. Gray would have a chance to match that.
That opportunity has already been there.
So
He made that
it's just something to
decision.
consider, is a right of first refusal.
And I'd like for you to speak, of course, with Mr. Dowd in this endeavor.
Yeah.
And with all the information, with that, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. With, I'd like to go into 2020. Thank you to table, is that correct?
Yes.
Could I have the question, please? My answer is yes.
You're killing me, Chairman, you're
Councilwoman
killing me.
Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Secretary Yates,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. That'll take care of that. But the other issue I have is 2020 meeting dates.
So we take a break.
We're gonna finish this right up and go home.
All right.
Thank you. Do we have any motion? Do we just need a motion to accept the ones in the book?
So moved.
So moved. I'll second it. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Red Eagle, seconded by Chairman Waller. No discussion, just call for the question.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
This is just the dates.
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Secretary Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
motion passes.
And thank you. And the merit bonus was put on here, the discussion we had over the treasurer. Lacey, is this correct, or do we want to talk about that?
It's just to release the bonus that's in the budget.
For our staff. And you have to be one of those people that has reached this criteria and we're still a little under, is what I'm trying to say. So let me take care of that, okay? I don't want you to say anything. What do I need from the council today over this?
There's a resolution.
Talk around it.
Yes,
Chairman, I move to, approve a resolution to release the merit bonus.
Second.
second, I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Harlan, seconded by Councilwoman Gray. No discussion, call for the question. To release it.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes,
Second Chair Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you very much, council. I would like to interject the item that was requested, 6D, that the AFC has on a constitutional change amendment. Would you like to interject that right now?
Yes, before each of you, it's been handed out the, markup, and this is the committee the council had, put together, the sub-working group, myself and Wilson Pipestem and Margot, Councilwoman Gray, Councilman, Chairman Waller.
Yes.
She won't let me call her by her first name, she corrects me. This is what we came up with, working with the annuitants for change. They were very pleased with it, we were very pleased with it. This is the working document they'll be taking out into the communities. And, just wanted to get a resolution, supporting them from, this council. And I make a motion
Thank you.
that the council support the annuitants for change based upon this proposed language.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's call for the question.
I got a discussion.
Okay, excuse me. I have a motion on the floor.
I was just handed this.
Councilwoman.
I haven't had time
Second.
to, I have not even read the second paragraph. So I would like to have a little time to look at it. I mean, break, maybe, or.
I tried to take.
Okay, honestly, can we take a
I
little
mean,
break?
I'd hate to vote on something that I hadn't even read.
I understand that.
Okay.
That's the way our federal government works.
Oh my God, we almost made it, council. With that, let's just take a short 10-minute break.